All right, hey AEIS weavers, now is time for you, when you decide, to take your weaving off your loom. It's not going to stay on the cardboard loom. I use these looms over and over again. So I'm going to kind of show you how to take it off. And there are several ways. Okay, so one way of taking it off is if you have woven and then combed, so you want to make sure that your weave is really tight, that you don't see any of the warp lines. Okay, so you're going to comb it up so that it's very tight. So this is one way. Comb it up so it's very tight and you don't see any of these lines. All you have to do, okay, so first you're combing it up. Let me back up a little bit. First you're going to comb it up so that you don't see any of these looms. And then with all of these strings that are out here, you're just going to cut them. If this is really tight, all you have to do, and I'll tilt my camera down, is cut them. So down so that you can see. Okay, so all you're going to do with your scissors is, let's start at the top, is pull. So you want to kind of pull and then cut, but look where you're cutting so you don't cut your line. Okay. And it'll bounce back and kind of go hidden underneath. So again, you're going to pull out and pull. And I'm going to scissors away from this. I'm not cutting this way. I'm going to scissors away. So I'm going to pull and cut. Pull and cut so that you get a nice clean edge. Okay. You can, it's a weaving, so you can leave all of these little extra strings out, but it does look a little bit cleaner when you pull and then cut. But again, watch where you're cutting. And some of these scissors, the best place to cut is really close to this part here. If you try to cut out here, it's not going to cut. You have to get your yarn really close. For some reason, it's always sharper there. Okay, so you're pulling, watching your fingers and cutting. Pull, and I would turn it away from you so that you can kind of see what you're doing. Pull and cut, okay? And that'll create a nice finished edge on both sides, okay? So if you are thinking that this is gonna be a bookmark, which is kind of what we're going for, then you can, another decision you're gonna make is, do you want fringes or tassels on the ends, or do you want it to be just clean? If you want it to be just clean and you've pushed your weavings all the way up to the very edge, notice there's no white loops showing, all you have to do is carefully pull it off. So you're going to carefully, and this is a different loom than what you guys are using, and so I think yours will be a little bit easier. You're just going to pull it off the loom. Okay, so I'm just pulling my teeth, and again, this one is really tight. Try not to rip the teeth because I like to use these over again. So I'm just pulling it off, and the loop will keep it tight. Now with this string, you can just tuck it in. Okay, you can tie it to another little loop, but I'll help you guys with that loop string. But basically, you're going to pull all of these off, and it's going to be secure. Okay, so the end is really secure. Now, on the other end, if you haven't woven all the way down, you have all of these strings. Okay, so what you're going to do with that situation is, again, these are more strings than you guys have. You only have 7. So when you only have 7, you're going to tie 2 together, and then at the end, you're going to tie 3 together. So let me tilt it down so you can kind of see a little bit better. What you're going to do is 2 at a time, you're going to cut it close to the finger. Even though you have a long string, you don't want to cut it right close to here because it'll unravel. So you're going to cut your string close to the teeth. And I'm going to try and tilt my camera down even more so I can see. Okay. And then with those 2 strings, only do 2 at a time, you're going to do a knot. So you're going to cross it over. One string goes through the loop, pull it tight, cross it over. So you're crossing the 2 strings. The string that's on top is going to go underneath and through the loop. And normally I would say 2 is good enough, but since it's a weaving, let's do it 3 times. Okay, so you're going to then have this string, and then now you can trim this string. Once you cut them all, I would trim this string a little bit, okay? You don't want to cut it too short because then it could unravel. So then you cut it straight. So you're going to do 2 at a time. So the next 2, I'm going to cut and tie 3 times. So 1, 2, 3. And then make sure it's tight, and then you can trim that. How do you know if you think it's long enough? Well, ideally, it's at least half of your loom, okay? So this is kind of half. It's about a third. If you tell me you want to take it off and it's this short, it's really not long enough for a bookmark. And so we would have to deal with it. Ideally, I would love it if it was at least a third or a half of your loom woven. You don't have to take it off today, only when you're ready. So that was one way. If you wove really close and when you combed it, you pushed it all the way up to the edge, okay, where you can't see any white. The other way of doing it is to have little tassels on both sides. So again, this is a different loom. This loom students made from just cardboard, and they cut slits at the top and slits at the bottom and created their warp lines and then wove on it. So you can use any size cardboard that you have available. But for this size, for this, I have my strings at the top. I can see them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to carefully, again, I'm going to do it so you can see it this way. I'm going to, so this is my tail. I'm going to cut 2 of them at a time, and I'm going to cut them right by the tooth. So 2. And the same thing. Now you're going to still do, and I have the tail, so it's a long one. You're going to tie it 3 times. So now when you do it this way, I kind of like this way better because it kind of gives you fringes at the top. You're going to have fringes at the top. Let me just show you what I'm doing. You're going to have little fringes at the top and at the bottom when you cut it, okay? So I cut 2. I'm going to cut the next 2, and again, you want to cut it, or what you could do is, I can't pull it off. So I'm going to cut it really close to that tooth. So I have a lot of string to tie with, okay? I'm going to see if I can do it this way. Tie, again, these strings aren't too long. I'm going to tie it 3 times. 1, got to put it down. 2. So you get lots of practice tying. And it's not a knot, it's just a tie, 2 over under. So now I have 2 off, okay? And you have little fringes at the top. So I kind of like this. I think this looks like a cooler bookmark to have the fringes at the top and at the bottom. But you could just push your weaving all the way to the top. Make sure you can't see your warp lines at all. And just pop these off the edge, okay? And then again, with this string, I'll show you how to tuck it down. So the best way to do that is with a little needle. You're going to stick your little needle in as if you were sewing. So we were weaving before. So I stuck my orange needle in through the weave. I'm going to stick this string through that hole. And I'm just going to pull it down. So I got the white string through the needle, and now I'm pulling it down. Okay, so now it's gone. It's woven inside, okay? So I know taking your weaving off of your loom can be a little tricky. So again, there are 2 ways. One, to push it all the way up so that you just have to take the loops off the bottom and cut and tie, or scrunch your weaving down. So this is a student weaving. You're going to scrunch it down so that you have You're going to comb it down, not scrunch, so that you have strings at the top. And this is really kind of small, so this student really wouldn't be taking them off. But before you do it, so now I have a lot of good string at the top that I can use to tie and have some little tassels or fringe at the top. So when you're ready, again, it should be a good length. I mean, it should be as long as your hand, maybe from your little finger to your wrist long, and then you can start taking it off. So again, 2 at a time, cut way up at the tooth, tie 3 times. And then the same thing at the bottom. Cut towards the bottom, that way you have a lot of string to work with, tie 3 times, the beginning of tying your shoe. So you don't have to worry really about a knot. If you tie it 3 times, it will be a knot. So enjoy taking it off, and then the loom I can use for another class. So, and you can make your own loom. I think these looms will be easier to take off because the spaces are bigger. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed your weaving project. I hope that you did the tabby weave, maybe the basket weave, the slit, the fringe, the interlocking. So there were a lot of different weavings that you could have explored. And if your weave only looks this big, you have plenty of time to do it. So today is not the end of weaving. It's just a good spot for me to show students how to take it off so that I'm not doing everybody's. So enjoy the weaving project. It's a very functional piece of art.